I'm Rob Spedding, editor of Cycling Plus magazine. This is Warren Rossiter, he's the senior technical editor for the same magazine. We've just finished our Bike of the Year 2015 mega test. We took 35 bikes, narrowed it down to one winner. And as we've been doing that, we've obviously been paying attention to the trends that are coming through in road cycling this year. We'll be honest, they're probably reasonably similar to last year's, but Warren, what have you noticed most this year?
Yeah, we have seen a continuation of what we saw last year. So there's been a move away from 23C tyres. People are going to 25, even going bigger than that. You're also seeing the onslaught of disc brakes. There were lots and lots of great bikes last year. Lots of those have reappeared this year. They just happen to have disc brakes now. That on the whole is a very, very good thing. We're getting improved braking, which is great if you live in the UK because you've got consistent braking, wet or dry. Then the kind of final trend that we are seeing is the product managers of the brand seem to be taking far, far more care when they're speccing their bikes. We're seeing lots and lots of the big guys in the industry, the likes of Giant, Trek, Specialized, they're going the full group set route.
Why do you think they're doing that?
I think it just offers much better perceived value. If you look at a bike and you think, oh, that looks like a compromise, you immediately think, where else have they compromised? And it's got to be down to the growing stature of the direct-to-market online brands, the likes of Canyon, the likes of Rose, the likes of Lancashire's Ribble. You know, these guys are putting together spec packages that are truly unbelievable.
The Ribble bike won our Best Value Award. Yeah. I mean, talk us through that. How have they managed to make a bike so well spec'd? Well,
that's the thing, is that it's something that Ribble have always been brilliant at. They've always been brilliant at bringing together spec packages that it's hard to try and equate how on earth they've managed to do it.
It's got Dura-Race on it, hasn't it?
It's got Dura-Race, it's got Mavic Curiums, you know, the Elites on it. It's got Deda Superleggera components on it. I sat down with a pad and paper, went through all the retail prices and totted it up. There's over £3,000 worth at retail of components on that bike, and the bike's £2,500.
So the bigger brands can't really compete with that, but they are putting full group sets on to sort of to help.
Well, the thing is, they know that they've got to react. Everybody has to take notice because it's a compelling reason to buy a bike is one that's value packed.
The thing you touched on first isn't actually about value, but it's about bigness. It's about big tyres. We sort of saw that coming in last year. Why is that happening? I mean, there are different theories about tyres, aren't there? Obviously, comfort is one, but then there's talk about sort of the shape of the tyre for aerodynamics. I mean, is this part of it?
You've seen over recent years, especially at the high end on wheels, that everybody's now adopting a wider rim profile. You know, they're adapting this wider shape. And if you're taking the classic 23C tyre and stretching it over a super wide rim, you know, like a Zip or an MV, it doesn't work as well as it should. But you switch to a 25 and you get a much smoother, rounder profile. And lots of the guys in the industry that I've talked to that have done independent testing, be that tyre manufacturers or wheel manufacturers, they're all saying that a 25C tyre is quicker than a 23. It's got less rolling resistance, it's got more compliance, so it's faster and it's more comfortable, so why wouldn't you go bigger?
Is the comfort thing real, or is that perception, or is that industry hype, or?
Well, it makes sense. If you've got a bigger volume tyre, a tyre you can put more air into, when you go bigger, you can reduce that pressure. So if you're riding on a bad surface, you know, take the BMC with its 28, you can drop a few PSI out of the tyre and have it super comfortable. But then if you're on a super smooth road, you can bang the pressures up and enjoy the speed.
There's something else the BMC has got, which is kind of linked to wheels, to tyres, disc brakes. There weren't many last year when we were reviewing it. More and more bikes have got them this year. The top three all have disc brakes. Are we going to see the end of rim brakes?
Well, that all depends on racing. Immediately, as soon as all the pros start running disc brakes, it will spell the end for the standard brake.
We do hear is that, well, you know, the brakes we've got work fine. I stop. Why do I need disc brakes?
It's having that consistent feel and consistent power all the time, irrespective of weather conditions, irrespective of what rims you use. There are carbon wheels out there which their brake surface technology is so good that it's comparable to a normal aluminium ring. You know, none of these things can touch how good a disc brake is. Disc brakes don't have any more power, they just have tons more feel. So we've all done it. We've all plummeted down a hill far too quickly and ended up grabbing big fistfuls of brake to try and scrub the speed before you get into a corner. And on a rim brake, there is very little power there, so you end up with those big, fearful moments. With a disc brake, you've got so much feel, there's so much modulation through the pull of the lever that you get all your braking done early and consistent and comfortably. So having better brakes especially going downhill, makes you faster.
So how do you see the disc brake actually developing over the next 2 or 3 years? It's going to be very quick, isn't it?
Yeah, lots of standards are starting to be established, and as long as the competing companies all subscribe to those standards, so we end up with something uniform, then we'll start to see the brakes being developed more and more. At the moment, even the best brakes out there, the Shimano 785s, although SRAM's new hydraulic units, phenomenally good too, they are all still adaptations of what exists out there on the mountain bike side of things. As soon as it becomes pro peloton, there'll be money being starts chucked at the actual design of disc brakes, so you'll end up with lighter units, you'll end up with
we're going to see smaller rotors, are we?
I don't think we'll see smaller rotors, because the rotor size defines the power of the brake. So no, we won't see, I don't think we'll see
aero disc brakes.
There's no reason why you couldn't integrate disc brakes into an aero design. I mean, in fact, there are a few people out there already doing it. I think Stork have an aero road bike with disc brakes. It's a really, really interesting time for it. And simple things, like the weight penalty thing at the minute, I think further down the line it'll become less of an issue, because it's worth remembering that a hydraulic hose filled with fluid weighs significantly less than a brake cable, a Bowden cable with its metal outer casing. The actual hose is significantly lighter. So even now, if you get a top-end disc road bike, take Specialized S-Works tarmac disc and take their standard braked tarmac, the difference in weight is minimal. It's so small that it's not even worth considering. So if disc brakes get the same sort of development, same sort of advancement that the standard caliper brake has had, inevitably there'll be parity on weight, but better performance.
And the other trend I think that we should talk about, and the winning bike, the BMC Gran Fondo GF01, is kind of part of that, is this sort of slightly more versatile bike. We talked about it last year, how bikes were developing, and it was a sportive bike, it was aero bike, and now you've got this other area of cycling. You've got adventure road bikes, as a phrase coined by GT for their grade, which is the most extreme example of that. But basically bikes that you can do almost anything on. Do you think we're going to see more of those bikes that you can take off-road, race on the road, ride in a sportive on the road?
I certainly hope so. I think for road cycling and road bike technology to stay exciting and vibrant, we do need new and exciting things happening. I think it'd be quite easy to get stale and get a bit bored of the current obsession with everything sportive.
Are we going to see the bikes that make people think that road cycling, that's a fun thing to do, and the guys that go road cycling, they're fun guys like us, fun guys?
I don't know if it's going to be able to completely change the world's opinion, but something like the Grade is the sort of bike you could put somebody on and go, this is road cycling, and they'd have fun with it. Yeah. The BMC goes some way to doing that. It's obviously a lot more of a serious bike. It was designed for the pros initially, but it's got just enough of that kind of do-it-all ability. Last
year we saw a bit of development with aero bikes. This year, not so much, would you say? Do you think that the aero trend it's not dying out, or have designers just been concentrating elsewhere? Well, I think that's probably true, that because disc has kind of happened and it's happened quite quickly, obviously everybody's focusing most of their attention on new disc bikes or adapting their existing bikes to disc. We have seen a few new aero road bikes this year from new British brand 13. Their bikes are very aero orientated. At the top end you've seen debuts from Cervelo with the new S5. You've got beautiful handmade stuff like Pilot ESX. So aero hasn't gone anywhere. Is it becoming less overt though, do you think? Is it just being integrated into what you would call a normal road bike? Yeah, I think aero is becoming a consideration on anything. Anything that gives you that little advantage. Yeah. It's got to be worth doing. The two big boys that kind of started just recently in the past explosion on aero bikes, that being Specialized and Scott, they're both launching new aero projects this year. We've already had the invites through. We're looking forward to going and seeing what they're going to come up with. That will be exciting. Something else we talked about last year was obviously electronic shifting, and this year we've only got one bike with electronic shifting. That kind of makes it a bike that represents really good value. I think we're just waiting for it to trickle down probably one more group set level, aren't we? Yeah, I mean, the point at which Shimano deem it necessary to trickle it down to 105, or the imminent arrival of SRAM's new electronic drivetrains, that's when we'll see it sort of explode throughout this price point. We already know that Shimano's Di2 integration with their hydraulic disc brake system is really good. It's really successful. They've managed to incorporate both elements into the levers. You are going to see electronic drivetrains come back with a bang. When I was researching for this year with the price bracket that we had, most of the kind of DIT versions of the bikes that we had were just a couple of £100 over the top limit. So they are there, they are out there, but price-wise they seem to have crept up. But there's also quite a lot of future-proofing, as with the BMC. You know, you can actually upgrade a lot of these bikes to electronic now. That's a consideration.
I don't think there's a bike on sale in this price bracket right now that isn't ready for Di2. You know, some do it with a lot more kind of vigour than others, like with the BMC, with all of its removable bosses and all the equipment that comes with it, the mounts for the seat post mounted battery, and every bolt and nook that you would need to switch it over. But pretty much every bike in the test is drilled and routed, ready for Di2.
Do you think we'll see anything? Obviously Shimano perhaps have been concentrating on mountain biking, and there are some quite interesting innovations coming into the mountain biking electronic group set. Do you think we're going to see any of that coming into the road?
Well, I think the way that on XTR Di2 you can program it so that the front mech will shift when it deems it necessary from on the rear. Yeah, I don't see why not. That must be just a software routine. So I'm sure that could be introduced onto the road right now. You know, whether we're going to want to relinquish control of our gears to a software routine, I'm not sure. But if it can be linked to, say, power output, and it's matching your gear to maintain that power, it could have some clever, interesting things. I'm sure, you know, if that comes to pass, guys like the UCI will want to get involved, because having an automatic gearbox could be conceded as an advantage.
Well, they might just not want electronic group sets to eventually take over the world and run us all.
That's certainly true.
And what about Pro Compact? What is that?
The fastest and fittest guys have always used 5339, and then
I love it.
And then you've got the Compact came along, which is a 5034 for when we're finding climbing a struggle. But at the top end, that 5011, some people find that a little bit low. Hence the Pro Compact, which is a 5236. So you've still got a decent low end. But at the top end, you know, 5211 is as big a gear as any mortal is ever going to want to push.
So gear ratios in road cycling, it's not the same as wheel sizes in mountain biking, is it? We're not going to go and see loads and loads of different standards.
I think 5339 used to be absolutely the standard. Whenever you bought a bike, that's what came on it. 5034 has definitely become the standard, but the bikes out there that are that little bit more serious, that little bit more race orientated, are all going 5236.
We're never going to see the return of the triple, are we, as a popular option, do you think?
I very much doubt it. You know, SRAM, they've got 1x11. So they've gone single ring, they've gone back to the days of Fasto copy.
Why is that? What do you think what does that do? Who's going to buy that?
I can see it making sense for a time trialist, and obviously CX1 for the cyclocross market has been a huge success.
Yeah.
There's simplicity there, there's less weight, clutch mech, your chain's never going to come off. So there are big advantages of it. The only issue I can see is like super wide cassette on the back, which requires their own proprietary free hub design. The jumps between those gears, I'm not sure if it's ever going to be something that the smooth pedaling roadie is ever going to want. But I've got to remain open-minded about it.
So there we go, lots of exciting stuff happening in the road bike world. And there's going to be even more next year, I'm sure. We're looking forward to all the big shows coming up in 2015. We'd be interested to know what you would like to see on road bikes in the future though, so comment below.